let's look at this question. 8 friends, namely Puneet, Quindal, Rakesh, Suman, Tarun, Ujjwal, Vinny, and Wasim, were standing in a line from east to west, not necessarily in the given order. Some of them were facing east, while the others were facing west. So we have 8 people in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We have 8 people this way. Now, east and west. East is here, and west is here. So now, see, instead of saying facing east or facing west, I'm going to call it facing right or facing left, because that is easier for me to comprehend. Now, when Puneet says some of them are facing east, some of them are facing west, each one of them were asked how many friends are standing behind him or her in the line. Answers given by each of them were this: Puneet 3, Quindal 5, so on and so forth. Now, when Puneet says 3, if I number the positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, look at Puneet's answer. 3, what does this mean? Either he's standing at spot 4 and facing right. Puneet could be standing here and facing this way. Or the other case is Puneet is standing at spot 5 and facing left. Standing at spot 5 and facing left. These are the 2 potential spots for Puneet. These are the 2 potential spots for Puneet. And just like we have identified the potential spots for Puneet, let us do that for everyone else. Now, Quindal. Either he's standing on 6 and facing right, or he's standing at 3 and facing left. For Rakesh with 1, either he's standing at 2 and facing right, or he's standing at 7 and facing left. Suman, either he's standing at 5 and facing right, or standing at 4 and facing left. For Tarun, either he's standing at 2 and facing right, or he's standing at 7 and facing left. How I'm also generating these numbers, hopefully you can see, I've just seen the pattern from the first one itself. 3 plus 1 gets me 4, 4 right, and right and left combo numbers will add up to 9. Right and left combo numbers will add up to 9. So 1 more than 2 is 3, 3 plus 6 is 9. So this is 3 right and 6 left. 7 plus 1 is 8, so 8 right and 1 left. Wasim, 1 right and 8 left. That is how these numbers are being generated. Now, among these 8 people, the most interesting people are Rakesh and Tarun. They are definitely at spot 2 or spot 7. If you are at spot 2, see, if you are at spot 2, you are facing right. If you are at spot 7, you are facing left. So I don't know who stands here, Rakesh or Tarun, but I know this person is definitely standing to the right, and Tarun or Rakesh, this person is definitely standing to the left. Now, the next set of people, interesting set of people are Puneet and Suman. They will occupy spot 4 and 5. We don't know whether they will be facing right or left, but Puneet and Suman will definitely occupy spot 4 and 5. Now let's look at Quindal and Ujjwal. Quindal and Ujjwal. Can you see Quindal and Ujjwal will be standing at spot 6 and 3. So Quindal or Ujjwal, Ujjwal or Quindal. We don't know who is facing right, who is facing left, but they're standing at spot 3 and 6 is no. Now the only people left are Vinny and Wasim. Either it is Wasim, Vinny, or Vinny, Wasim. These are the precise pieces of information we know as of now. Now, next thing, final information given to us. Not more than 2 friends standing together were facing in the same direction. So you cannot have 3 people facing in the same direction consecutively. You cannot have 3 friends standing in the same direction consecutively. That is what is told. Now, based on this information, we can potentially generate cases. Let's say the person who was standing at spot 1, was facing eastwards. If it is eastwards, it cannot be Vinny. It has to be Wasim. And correspondingly, Vinny has to be here, and he's also facing this way. Vinny and Wasim have to be standing facing the east. Vinny and Wasim have to be standing facing the east. Now, we know that the people at spot 2 and spot 7 are facing east and west respectively. Now this person could be R, this person could be T, this person could be T, this person could be R. So we also have W and V. Two base cases have been identified, right? Now see the first two spots are facing east. First two spots are facing east. So the next person has to be facing west. Next person has to be facing west. Now who could it be? Can Quindle be at spot 3? Possibly. Can Ujjwal be at spot 3? No, Ujjwal cannot be at spot 3 because Ujjwal has only two people behind him. If he's facing in the west, Ujjwal cannot be here. It has to be Quindle. It has to be Quindle. Correspondingly, Ujjwal is here. Ujjwal is here. Now Ujjwal has to be facing towards the east because Ujjwal has only two people behind him. So Ujjwal is facing west and Ujjwal is facing west. This is known. Now look at spot 6 and 7. Both of them are facing west. So the fifth spot has to be to the person who is facing east. Fifth spot has to be to the person who is facing east. Can P be there? P, if he stands here, he will have four people behind him. So P cannot be standing here. I will need to have Suman here and Suman here, which is also to say Puneet will be here and Puneet will be here. And Puneet needs to have three people behind him. So Puneet would be facing this way or Puneet would be facing this way. And this is all the possibilities. This is all the possibilities when Wasim is at the left extreme and he's facing east, and Vinny is at the right extreme and he's also facing east. Okay. The other case would be Wasim is standing here. Wasim is standing here. Sorry. The other case could be, let's say the person at the first spot was facing this way. We know the person at the second spot has to be facing this way. Person at the seventh spot has to be facing this way. Now at the first spot, if you're facing this way, it can be either Wasim or Vinny. So it has to be Vinny. It cannot be anyone else. It has to be Vinny. It has to be Vinny because if it is Wasim, Wasim would have 7 people behind him, but he states that there are only 0 people behind him. So we know Wasim is standing here. If Wasim is standing here and Wasim has 0 people standing behind him, it can only work if Wasim is facing towards the west. Now again, R and T can exchange places. R here, T here, T here, R here. This is known. Additionally, this is V. This is W. Now look at spot 8 and 7. Two westward facing people are there. So the next spot has to be for an eastward facing person. If it has to be for an eastward facing person, at spot 6, you can either have Q or U. Q says there are 5 people behind him. And U says there are 2 people behind him. So U cannot come here. This has to be Q. This has to be Q. Which now tells me U has to be here. U has to be here. Additionally, for U, there were 2 people behind him. So it has to be facing east. This is known. Now look at spot 2 and 3. There are 2 people facing east. The next spot has to be for the person facing west. Now, between P and S, if P stands at 4, and he says there are 3 people behind him, but no, there will be 4 people behind him. So P cannot come here. This has to be S. This has to be S. So this has to be P. This has to be P. Also, P has 3 people standing behind him. So it can only work if P is facing this way and P is facing this way. And now, beautifully, we have all the cases listed here as well. These are the only 4 possibilities. These 4 are the only cases that can be generated because we started off with Wasim and Vinny facing either east or Wasim and Vinny facing west. No further cases can be generated apart from these. Let us go on to answer questions. Find the absolute difference between the number of friends facing east and those facing west. Facing east and west or facing left and right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Here you have east facing 5 and west facing 3. Here you have second case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. East facing 5 and west facing 3. Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. East facing 3 and west facing 5. And east facing 3 and west facing 5. See, regardless of what case you take, can you see the absolute difference between the number of friends facing east and those facing west will always be 2. So option A. Next, for how many friends can we determine the direction in which he or she is facing? W could be facing east or west, not possible. We can't really be certain. For R, we have a case where he's facing east, then we have a case where he's facing west, not possible. For Q, we have a case where he's facing west, we have a case where he's facing east, so not possible. For P, there is a case when he's facing east, there is a case when he's facing west, not possible. For U, there is a for S, there is a case where he's facing east, there is a case where he's facing west, not possible. For U, there is a case where he's facing west, there is a case where he's facing east, not possible. For T, facing west, facing east, not possible. For V, we have a case where he's facing east, there is a case where he's facing west. So for none of the friends can we be absolutely certain whether they are facing east or west, and therefore the answer to this question is option A. Next, for how many of the following pairs of friends, how many of the following pairs of friends will necessarily be standing next to each other? So they have to be adjacent. Let's see Ujjwal and Rakesh. In the first case itself, Ujjwal and Rakesh are not next to each other, so gone. Tarun and Pindal. In the first case itself, Tarun and Pindal are not next to each other, so gone. Wasim and Tarun. In the first case itself, Varun and Tarun, Wasim and Tarun are not next to each other. And Vinny and Rakesh. In the first case itself, Vinny and Rakesh are not next to each other. So this is also gone. So none of these pairs will necessarily be standing next to each other. Answer is option A. Next. How many of the following pairs will necessarily be facing in the same direction if Ujjwal and Rakesh are facing the same? Okay. Ujjwal and Rakesh are facing the same direction. So the first case is no longer valid. Second case survives. Ujjwal is facing west, Rakesh is facing west. The third case is valid. Rakesh is facing east, Ujjwal is facing east. The fourth case is no longer valid. This is also gone. So the 2 cases left. Hopefully you can see now I'm willing to cut off the unacceptable cases because it's the last question. Had it not been the last question, I would not have cancelled it off so carelessly. Okay, for these 2. For how many of the following pairs will necessarily be facing the same direction if Ujjwal and Rakesh are facing the same direction? We have ensured Ujjwal and Rakesh are facing the same direction. Let's see Vinny and Rakesh. Vinny and Rakesh, no, they're not facing the same direction. In case 2 that we had generated, they're facing opposite direction. So this is gone. Tarun and Ujjwal. Tarun and Ujjwal are not facing the same direction. They are facing opposite directions. So this is gone. Wasim and Tarun. Wasim and Tarun in the first case and Wasim and Tarun in the second case. In both these cases, they are facing the same direction. So this has to be counted. Ujjwal and Pindal. Ujjwal and Pindal are both facing west in the first case. They're both facing east in the second case. So yes, this pair also should be counted. So out of these 4 pairs, there are 2 pairs that will necessarily be facing the same direction. And therefore, the answer to this question is option C, 2. What this question expects us to engage in is carefully list out all the possible cases. Once you are done with that, the set will open up. That will be all.